I think 7 rounds isn't bad. It's kind of what you're going to expect probably for all these tournaments. If it's anything less, I would be quite shocked. So we're getting right into things. We got Brandon Cline on Scape Shift and Jeremy on Blue-White Control, which right there we just saw Teferi be awesome. We had a turn 1 Search for Tomorrow on, what is it called? I can't remember the mechanic. Suspend.
Oh, suspend.
And it was about to come off Suspend, but Jeremy had a turn 3 Teferi, and Teferi says you can only play things on your main phase. That would have been outside the main phase, so Brandon does not get to go get a land. He just wasted a spell.
Oh, little Monwoovie Acid Moss.
That card is so good. Like, you just get to blow up a land. Oh, Spell Queller's back. And the best part is, Jeremy can untap, bounce his Spell Queller to draw a card and get it back, and that Acid Moss is gone. Brandon can't play it due to Teferi's static ability of you can only play things at fair speed. So this is like so that turn 3, turn 4 combo is so unfair for Brandon.
Yeah, and I definitely know, like, I've played Jeremy in the past, and he was playing Blue White at one point, so he definitely knows what he's doing here.
Yeah, Jeremy's definitely been on. Ooh, wow, he's just like, I'm gonna race you, and drops a Batterskull down, which I think is still fair because Brandon is gonna go to 5 mana and can't really do anything there with it. Like, I don't think he could kill a Batterskull, which means Jeremy's just going to start gaining life and going at it. He's getting aggressive, and I think that is definitely the right way to go. So we're going to see here, Lightning Bolt on the Spell Queller,
and the
just to get it away.
Right, and the Acid Moss doesn't even matter at that point because Teferi's on board.
Yep. So we're even, like, double-checking. So he was just like, I'm going to get your Spell Queller away. That way you can't minus it, and try to do the things he probably would have originally done if he didn't have the turn 5 Batterskull. But now Batterskull is just going to do work. It's going to start gaining Jeremy life and put Brandon on a clock. Normally, Blue-White Control isn't going to be putting you on a clock like that. So it's pretty insane that we get to watch that happen. I'd imagine on 6 mana, probably going to just try to jam a Prime Time and hope it gets there. Yep. Which, luckily, Jeremy's double-checking, like, how does Valakut work? Valakut does specify you have to have 5 other mountains.
Yep.
So with that Cinderglade coming in, doesn't trigger anything. Jeremy's not going to take any damage. But with this Prime Time, if it resolves, most likely Brandon's going to get 2 mountains. He's going to deal 6 damage somewhere, whether it's to Jeremy's face or to Teferi to try to knock it down.
And that's the thing. Like, I think that overall, it looks like Jeremy has a Force Negation in his hand, which would be different if Brandon had played a Scape Shift.
You've played anything there, like another Acid Moss or anything to do some damage somewhere, he could have just forced it. Or if it was even a cheaper spell, oh, wow. So that's a Field of the Dead. Talking about guild cards and everything, making it into Modern, that is a Field of the Dead. So it won't trigger the 3 damage, but that is going to get him 2 zombies. So that'll start making some blockers, and that just took that clock away from Jeremy because you don't really want to waste any removal. Oh, getting saucy with some Scyther tokens there. So we got some 2/2 zombies on the field from the Field of the Dead. That is plenty of blockers. So things just got interesting off of that Field of the Dead because now Brandon, when he draws a land and plays a land, majority of the time it's going to deal 3 damage because it'll be a mountain, but then it also gets him a zombie. Wow, on Thin Ice, getting some Modern love. That's pretty sweet. On Thin Ice, I don't think a lot of people expected to get played, but I think snow permanents are starting to get more and more popular in Modern. So this is just a free 1 mana removal spell for decks like this. You put out a Snowland, which he only has the 1, so it is lucky that he did find the snow-covered island there. But, he just got to deal with Prime Time, and Brandon probably has no way of main board dealing with an enchantment like that. Like Spell Queller, yeah, you can kill that. On Thin Ice, that Prime Time's probably gone for the rest of the game. And then you just see here Teferi bounce one of the tokens, and then he just attacked in for 4 damage. Brandon lost the other token.
The other thing too is Jeremy is going to feel the ruin on the upkeep,
Yep, especially because floating the mana means nothing because Teferi will make it so you can't cast anything. Brandon will get 3 damage, so here it's either decide, do I shoot you in the face or do I put Teferi down to 2? Because then if Brandon does play another mountain, he can just kill Teferi. There's nothing really Jeremy can do about it. Which, yep, he went for the 3 damage, and we'll see if Brandon gets anything that he can kind of get going with here. That Field of the Dead is what he was really going to need, especially he has 2 fetch lands in play. That Field of the Dead would have started putting work in.
Yeah, and I think this matchup's a little weird. If I'm on Brandon's side, I'm trying to race as fast as possible, get the scape shift down or the prime times like we had. I like Jeremy's approach though, just in the batter skull and just getting more and more aggressive.
I think with now Batterskull finally getting played in these, because back in the day before Stoneforge, you weren't playing Batterskull because it wasn't good enough. But now playing that one of just really paid off for Jeremy, because especially having Baby Teferi, like having all these different tricks in your blue-white control deck, because beforehand you didn't have Baby Teferi, so you didn't like have as much protection for things because your things could die at instant speed. Oh, he decided to opt. He 3 damaged the Batterskull and then 3 damaged it again with a lightning bolt to kill it off. And Jeremy said, that's fine. I'm going to flash in this spell queller for no counterspell. That's fine. And then he's going to equip the Batterskull to the spell queller, and unless Brandon finds a way to either kill Jeremy, who's now at 32, or kill the spell queller, he's just dead because it's a flyer.
I think that's probably just kind of it. We know that Jeremy has a Force of Negation plus Teferi, so even if Brennan has Scape Shift, has a way to just get a ton of extra lands out.
Yep.
I think that's just kind of it from here.
I literally think after equipping Batterskull, the only way Brandon could have had a shot at this match is if Jeremy had 0 cards in hand and he drew Scape Shift to kill the Spell Queller, kill the Teferi, and chunk at Jeremy's life. But even then, they would both have like no cards, and Batterskull would probably just get bounced, replayed. That was definitely the perfect, I think, scenario for Jeremy there, going turn 3 Teferi to kind of mess up your game plans, turn 4 Spell Queller to mess it up even more, into the turn 5 Batterskull to where he just started gaining 4 life a turn. There wasn't anything Brandon could do about it after that Field of Ruin. I think if that Field of Ruin didn't come into play, the Field of the Dead was just going to make so many zombies and get so overwhelming for Jeremy, because he would have had tons of blockers and he would just be doing damage every time he played a land. That would have been real good, but unfortunately, unfortunately for Cline, that didn't work out. For Jeremy, that's the first win for him, which I think is really needed against like Scape Shift that can just win out of nowhere. So we'll see what happens here. Game 2, obviously Brandon will be on the play. Got some interesting sideboard cards for both of them.
So right now, Brandon's working with 2 Gala Summer, 1 Collector Oofy, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Fry, Core 20 card, new card.
Another one.
Can't be countered, pretty big maybe. Reclamation Stage, 2 Anger of the Gods, 2 Force of Vigors, 2 Obstinate Baloth, and 1 Thrag Tusk.
Yeah, like for the creature aspects, I don't think any of these are really going to help him out. Like, the gain of the life isn't going to be relevant. That just right there, like, sure, Jeremy got lucky and was able to just go Spell Queller, Batterskull, and just start turning them sideways and beating phase. That's not your typical game plan with the blue-white control like Jeremy's looking for. He's going to kind of usually be a little slower, countering your spells, and then finally killing you. So I think like Obstinate Baloth and Thragtusk aren't going to be great for Cline and Valakut. Like you just want to be killing them. Whereas like the Fries, on the other hand, being able to deal with that Teferi, real good. Reclamation Stage, probably going to come in, deals with the Batterskull, deals with the On Thin Ice that we saw, and probably deals with other answers. Like there's a good chance that since he's playing blue-white, you could see the Tension Spheres, and other things like, for instance, even actually, Jeremy's playing a Cataclysmic Gear Hulk in the sideboard, so Reclamation Stage could go ahead and blow that up.
Yeah, I think, well, that's pretty cool. Jeremy has 4 Leyline of Sanctity. What do you think? Think you bring them in? Like, what's the
I
game
can see
plan
Jeremy bringing those in just because if he just lands a Leyline, if Brandon doesn't find that Reclamation stage, he can just, like, never kill Jeremy. The Ashak Dream Render isn't going to really do anything, so that's not coming in. Cataclysmic Gearhulk doesn't seem phenomenal. Celestial Purge, green permanence, not going to do anything. Force Negation, if he feels the need to have another one, he could have something there. Stony Silence, obviously nothing. Could bring in another Teferi Time Raveler, but you're really only at instant speed affecting cards from your Spell Queller or Search for Tomorrow, which that just doesn't seem phenomenal. I think like just a couple Teferis in your side or main board are good enough.
He just brings in Disdainful Stroke, right?
Yeah, Disdainful Stroke just deals with all the threats. Well, Mana Leaks are still good because you can counter the early stuff that's ramping him. Okay. Or if he feels like it, because it is just a quick swap, like you got 2 Disdainful Strokes, 2 Mana Leaks, you could swap it. Because Disdainful Stroke, you can just be like, sure, I will let all your Search for Tomorrows, Sakura Tri-Builders, all those resolve. When you go to finally play your Primetime or Escape Shift, that will not resolve. Cline definitely did come prepared. I believe him and some friends are going out celebrating tonight for a friend's birthday. I remember hearing about that. So he's going to try to, quickly win a MCQ, qualify the Pro Tour, and then go out and celebrate with friends.
He looks he's very sharp. I like the purple.
He's very dapper. He definitely is.
All right.
I know I haven't got a chance to talk to him yet today, but he's probably hoping to feel good after a nice win. So we'll see how it goes. You got to get through Jeremy first, which Jeremy is up that game. So he's got to pull 2 out here.
Let's see.
So the nice part with Brandon being on the play, the search will go off next turn, and the Teferi won't be there to mess things up. If Jeremy wants, he can counter it, but I know playing against them.
And I think like if I'm in Jeremy's seat, like we were saying, you just kind of wait, right?
Yeah,
just
like,
kind of hang out, wait for him to.
If you have like
a
stuff. Handful, like he is casting the Mana Leak here, but I did see like I think he had like at least another 2 more counter spells in his hand. When you have just a grip full of counter spells, then sure you can start firing them off and making it so not only does Brandon have no cards in hand, but when he top decks the expensive cards, he doesn't have the mana to cast them. When you only have like 1 or 2 in your hand, that's when you have to pick and choose your fight.
We have a Stoneforge from Jeremy.
But I could also see, I do think Jeremy went there because him having the Mana Leak, Stoneforge, and the Force Negation, he's just going to try to be aggressive like he was game 1. Going to play the turn 3 Stoneforge Mystic. Turn 4, he will not get to use it with Stoneforge Mystic.
Bolted away very fast.
Good question. Cline. Yeah. Cline was like, you are not having a free turn 3 Batterskull. Which is fair, just like Legacy, you always kill that Stoneforge Mystic because cheating in equipment is not fair. I thought it was going to be not great for Modern, but I think Stoneforge is actually pretty fair right now. We're still obviously trying to get through the reforging of Modern after the Hogak, but so far it's... Oh, he did bring in the Thrag Tusk. I guess he probably just wanted another threat.
It's just a fast beater, right?
It's just
get in...
It's going to be a 4-turn clock. I'm sure there are definitely some cards that Brandon was just like, these just aren't good enough. I'll cut them out and just go for more beaters. So he could even have the Obstinate Balos in there. I think the Thrag Tusk is fine just because it will get a creature when it dies. Or actually, I shouldn't even say dies. When it leaves the battlefield, because even if it gets Path to Exile, you're still getting a 3/3, which is probably why Brandon brought it in, because he looked at it as it's going to be a beater that he has to deal with. And if he does deal with it, I get a 3/3. But by the sounds of it, we did have the Disdainful Stroke with the Field of Ruin, which is nice. We got to Field of Ruin his Valakut, and then have enough mana for the Disdainful Stroke.
Another Field of Ruin by Jeremy.
That's going to be real good for him, because Brandon might be at the 5 mountains, but as soon as another Valakut comes, it's just gone. Which he does have the Valakut, and it's so feel bad, because you don't want to purposely miss your land drops, but in this situation, he might choose to. That way he can keep it. I'm sure there's still more. Like, I know some decks sometimes only play 2 or 4 Valakuts. He's playing a full 4 Valakut, so he could really jam that Valakut and like let the Field of Ruin kill it if he wants to, or he might just wait it out.
I think the thing is, depending on what Jeremy has, so it looks like he has an Opt, Force of Negation, possibly a Teferi. Brandon has a Valakut, a Veil Summer, and Escape Shift.
Spell Queller. So good. I love this card. I know a couple years ago, I definitely brought it here, played it with some Blade Splicers, Restos. It got me into a top 8 of a regional to qualify me for an NV, and then I took it to the NV, and it's just... Spell Queller is such a fun card. I'm happy to see it back in Modern, because you could just do so many things with that. You can just throw it out on turn 3 and be like, I'm going to Ambush Viper you, and then they have to respect the Resto Angel, Cryptic Commands. So many things are live at that point.
And the thing is, the card has always been good. Like, it's never not been a good card in general.
Yep.
It's just the way things have shifted and whatnot. So.
Exactly. Which, especially in Modern still, like, they're... Ooh.
Sort of Feast and
So...
Famine.
Yeah, we didn't even really talk too much in the main board because I expected the typical, but yeah, in the main board he's got one sort of Feast and Famine and one Batterskull, so definitely got some saucy choices there.
I was talking to a couple of locals about this that are playing, similar decks, whether it's Bant or things like that with the Stoneforge package, and a few of them opted. They really like Feast and Famine. They want the discard. They want... it just provides more than what it ever has in the past.
It's definitely interesting. I feel like from just being around stores and whatnot, I've definitely seen, like, for Modern, Sword of Fire and Ice, I think is, like, not favored. Like obviously in Legacy it's insane. Like, Lightning Bolt, Delvers, some of the most popular cards in Modern, Young Pyromancer. So Sword of Fire and Ice, real good. Especially the card advantage is what's insane. I guess having, like, the reverse with Sword of Feast and Famine, making them get rid of one, is, like, just as good, and similar to how, like, red and blue is so, like, dominant in in Legacy. Black and green with Assassin's Trophy, Liliana's, and everything else is actually pretty dominant in Modern. So that's a pretty good choice right there. Ooh, this is interesting. So with Brandon having the 5 there, if Jeremy fires off the Field of Ruin, Brandon can still fetch, go get a mountain, blow up the Spell Queller, get the Search for Tomorrow back, go get another mountain, blow up the Stoneforge Mystic, or just attempt to kill Jeremy with all the things he's going to have. Unless Jeremy decides... Oh, he could also... I forgot we have the Force of Negation still. But I still think here we're going to be fetching off and try to force him into the Field of Ruin. Little shocked he didn't fire it off in response to the fetch. That way Brandon can't get all these triggers he's about to get.
The other thing, too, is Brandon still has a Veil of Summer in his hand.
He does.
So that's kind of big here. Also, that plays a role because Brandon just fetched for a Cinderglade.
Yep. So. I think, because right here he's fetching for the land. He's going to blow up the Spell Queller, hope to get another one, blow up the Stoneforge Mystic, and just get all the lands first before the Scape Shift resolves. Because he knows 2/3 of Jeremy's hand. Like, he knows we got a Batterskull. He knows he has a Sword of Feast and Famine. So Jeremy can only have, at most, 2 counterspells. Which, would those 2 counterspells even be enough? So I think we're going to find out right here if it is. I definitely think here, like, taking this land, blowing up the Stoneforge is a fine play.
Yeah, I think play-wise, like, this is that scenario that it's the maker.
He's actually going to get it. So yeah, here he goes and Lightning Bolts the Stoneforge Mystic, because now the Field of Ruin's gone. And the Force of Negation resolved. We're just going to... Or it hasn't resolved yet. We're going to Veil of Summer. And Brandon's just going to go get a bunch of lands. So by Jeremy deciding to put in the Batterskull instead of blowing up the Valakut, I'd imagine Brandon's just going to go get more Valakuts anyways, but...
Draw from the Veil of Summer.
And he's just going to be like, well, how many are left in my deck? How many do I want to get rid of? Oh, there's enough. Well, I'm going to get rid of all of these. So we're going to get... Looks like 6 lands.
Yep.
Because I think he's going to leave that Stomping Ground in.
And I think the thing is, there's a scenario with Valakut, right? Where if the player escape shifts and they only have, is it 6 lands? And if you Ghost Quarter it or if you get rid of one of the mountains,
upon resolution, it has to have like 5 other ones. But, he's going to have the Valakut there. There's no other answers for Jeremy to have, so he's going to have 5 triggers per Valakut. Yep. So 10 triggers altogether, 30 damage, and that's all she wrote for Jeremy.
So I wonder...
Yeah, I think...
do they go back to the board here? Like, does Jeremy especially go back?
Jeremy can decide, and like possibly if he didn't bring someone in like Leylines, he could decide. Brandon, I don't think he has too many options for this matchup. Anyways, that the things he was going to bring in for game 2 are going to stay in for game 3, such as like the Veil of Summer, possibly the Fries in the Reclamation stage, and obviously the Thragtusk. He might decide to take them out, but I think he'll probably leave all of his cards alone. Jeremy, if he didn't bring in things like a Leyline, then he would consider it, but obviously we saw he brought in the Disable Strokes. They're probably happy with it. These aren't the type of decks that I think, like, similar to Infect, like the play draw could affect as much as, say, Infect was. With Brandon, I think whether you're on the player draw, he's going to want the same 60 cards for games 2 and 3. Whereas Jeremy, maybe being on, like, the draw, he wouldn't want a full set of Leylines, whereas on the play, maybe he will, but I doubt that. So I think they're going to stick with the same 60 cards, shuffle it up, and see who gets that game 3. And I can definitely see in the background, it's definitely moving fast today because there are a lot of empty chairs. So people are really getting through their matches. They're all, we want to get this MCQ over with and then go party tonight, apparently.
I mean, that's the way Modern is in general, right? It's like
you either take 50 minutes or you take 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely Modern is one of those ones that I feel we're in that happy phase where, matches I think on average will probably be taking like 20-ish minutes unless you get like the control versus control mirror. But I definitely think Modern's at the point where, if you're playing a quick deck, you're done in 5 minutes. If you're playing a slow deck, you're going to take the whole time. So that's a good point.
I'm just glad, player sake wise, this is not like going to a Grand Prix or Magic Fest, things like that. Because when those control mirrors go the whole time,
at a Grand Prix, it is guaranteed you're going to sit there for the full 50, 55 minutes for a round. If I ever went to a Grand Prix and a round did not take 50 minutes, I'd be very confused and concerned for everyone's sake.
It's definitely... I don't know. I know
why those guys play some Magic action. Apparently, the judges are going to play some lunch action. Ooh, got a couple menus presented there to Dan Jackson. Try to get the side on. Dan doesn't like that choice. He puts that back on the stack.
He's got the pizza menu now. So
he's still got. Olivier, is he taking it away? Looks like Dan might be forced to stick with the choice he just made. We'll find out if the life total stays above 0 or not.
Looks like the players are shuffled up. Looks like they're started.
And Dan made his choice, so we are ready to go. Magic players are ready to get some games.
Double Leyline. This is
so big. Reclamation Sage, not good enough because I believe we saw there was only one in the sideboard.
I mean, Cline also has double Force of Vigor, but the chances are you don't really bring that in, right?
No, like Force of Vigor. If he feels like the need against Leylines, I could see him doing that, but I think the Reclamation Sages might be good enough. There's definitely a lot of choices to be made. Like, you just saw, like, Jeremy decide, I do want Leylines. You saw Brandon decide, I do want Thragtusk. We saw Dan Jackson decided he wants a barbecue chicken sandwich. Everyone gets what they want today, apparently.
I mean, barbecue's great. No complaints. I think what's cool here is in this match, so far it looks like it's progressing much faster than the first two.
It's definitely, so Brandon is actually getting to resolve his mana ramp spells, but Jeremy also got to put in a Snapcaster and then a sword. This is not even close to what I would have expected Game 3 to be like. Like, if you told me how do you think it's going to go, I would have gone just like how 1 and 2 did. Jeremy did some things, countered some stuff, and then prolonged the game. Now Jeremy is not worried about Scape Shift, that he has free reign. So he threw in that Ambush Viper with Snapcaster Mage. He's equipping that sword. He's going to get to do some work right here. And I think that could be good enough for Jeremy.
Definitely looks great. I've never seen this scenario before, ever. Like, yeah. I wouldn't expect this.
When's the last time you saw a Sword of Feast and Famine in Modern?
In my playing time, never.
Yeah, my 7 years, I've never seen a Sword. If I saw a Sword of Feast and Famine, it was because it was like $10 versus Sword of Fire and Ice is like $50 because of Legacy. So it's definitely interesting to see. I've seen Ambush Vipers from Snapcasters before.
Yep.
I'm guilty with Spellqueller and Snapcaster doing that because, if you feel like you have the race and you can win it, especially with ley lines on your side, you're going to do it. But I've never in my life Ambush Viper, untapped, equipped it with an equipment. So that has got to be feel good for Jeremy.
I'm just very curious about Jeremy's decision of the ley lines. I don't think I've ever really seen, some form of a blue-white deck come out with 4 in the board.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever in my years played a full set. Like maybe there could have been a time where like when Ponza really came back in the format that my friends convinced me to do a full set. But yeah, I think I've never played more than 2 in a board. So full play set, he was definitely prepared for there are going to be jerks like Cline playing Scapeshift who wants to kill me off one spell. Well, I'm going to prevent that.
I mean, Burn's fairly popular right now.
Burn has definitely been growing back in popularity over the past month or so. So I think, I don't think I'm mad at a full set of ley lines. I think that's finally fair. It's been a while since I've said that in Modern.
Uh-oh. Spellqueller on a Sakura Tribe Elder, and it looks like Jeremy's probably free and clear to just swing away with the Snapcaster.
Yeah, I think Jeremy was just because right there, sure, the Sakura Tribal doesn't do anything because it just gets you a land. There's nothing going on. There's no Valakut. But now you get to get in for 2 damage with the Spellqueller, and you get in for the full damage for the Snapcaster Mage, which is what really Jeremy wanted, especially because it's going to get rid of that last card in Brandon's hand. So sometimes you deal with the Sakura Tribal just to get in some extra damage. Normally, I don't think I would ever do that just because you don't need to, but in this scenario, with the Batterskull, I think Brandon has to hit Scapeshift here. Okay. If he doesn't, I don't think he can win.
Farseek into a land, looks like.
Yeah, and that land will not be good enough because we obviously just have to play it because Snapcrash is going to make us discard it. But without that being Scapeshift, I think this will be too far gone for Brandon because that is a lot of damage on the field.
Yep, there it is. That's the game.